You know, you guys love to call me out for how much I touch my hair in my videos. And if that's going to be the thing that I get called out for on this platform, that's fine. Just, you know, watch your mouth. Hey guys, I'm Angus, and today I'm going to be wrapping up everything I read in May and doing my TBR for June. I know this video is late. It has been a week on BookTube and on the internet. It's also been a really tough week for me personally, in my personal life, but I really don't want to get into that because just, I don't want to go there. Hashtag Rachelgate happened on BookTube, and although there are so many jokes I could make about the situation, I think this has really detracted from what's important right now, and not just right now, but what's important on this platform going forward. Here I am touching my fucking hair again. We need to make a conscious effort to read diversely and to support our Black creators, our Black authors, and be a genuine ally. I think if there's one thing we can take from Rachelgate is learn how to be a genuine ally. And if you don't know how to be a genuine ally to the Black community, please just go and Google it. There are so many articles explaining it in really easy terms, and it's just so easy to find information on this topic. I will link some resources in my description as well. Just go and check it out. Alrighty, let's get into the books I read last month. Oh, and also if you don't give a shit about what I read last month and you're just here to see me draw out my TBR, completely understand, I'm boring as fuck, so you can skip to this time code right here if you want to see the fun stuff. But otherwise, I'm going to jump into the books I read last month. So I read 7 books last month, which is pretty good for me. I read everything but one book that I was planning on reading. Whoa, about 2,700 pages. The first book I read in May was The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. This is the bind-up of all 3 of the Philip Pullman His Dark Materials books. I gave this book 3.5 stars, I think. I was confused. This is such a sharp departure from the first book. It feels like almost an entirely different series now. I don't want to spoil it. This is going to be a minor spoiler, so if you don't want a minor spoiler about this series, skip ahead. At the start of the second book in this series, the main character completely switches, which is such an odd choice. And funnily enough, it switches from Lyra, our female lead, to a new boy named Will. And all of a sudden Lyra is kind of shelved and she's given like no agency in this whole story, and Will kind of takes her place. So the sexism is very telling. I also know that Philip Pullman is quite controversial in that he's not a great person. My biggest question is, how are these books middle grade? Like, they're dealing with such big topical issues like the church and religion and mortality, but this is supposed to be a middle grade series. I'm still excited to continue with this series. I really want to see what happens in the last book. And then from there I might decide whether I'll read the prequel series that he's doing now, Book of Dust. The next book I read in May was First You Write a Sentence by Joe Moran. And it's a really insightful and deep dive into the history of writing and sentence structure, which sounds boring, but it was actually so interesting. Just things you never consider that you just kind of do automatically, and ways in which you can change that to give off different effects in your writing. And I found it really useful as someone who wants to make a career out of writing. So I definitely recommend this to anyone who likes to write sentences in any form, which is everyone. The next book I read last month was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. Whenever I say Stiefvater, I always say it with an American accent. I don't know why. This was one of the books I drew out of my TBR jar, and wow, I'm so glad I picked this up again. I initially tried to read this last year after I read a bunch of contemporary books and I just couldn't get into it, but I picked it up again because I had to, and pushing through, I'm really enjoyed this. The first like 100 pages are a bit slow. It's definitely a slow burn, but then it really hooks you. And the last 200 pages I read in like one sitting. Definitely worth the read. The next book I read in May was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I feel like I'm one of the few people that actually enjoyed this. I really love the way that Suzanne Collins aged up her writing for her now audience that's kind of grown up a bit. I have a whole video reviewing this book, so if you'd like to see that, it's up there for you. I go into like full detail about my thoughts. The next book I read last month was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. And now people are gonna be really upset with this, but this book was not for me. I just have such a hard time getting into stories about fae and fairy. I don't know what it is. Also that, and Holly Black's writing to me, I just can't get into. So this book really wasn't for me, and I feel really bad because a lot of people here on BookTube love this series. That is all I have to say on this topic. Next up, this is a book I wasn't originally planning on reading this month, but I ended up picking it up, and it is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is an adult fiction novel with magical realism. I don't know, it's a weird one. I really enjoyed this book up until the halfway point, and then things got really strange. I think the best way to go into this is not knowing anything, but I've heard if you liked The Night Circus, if you liked her first novel, you'll really enjoy this. But for me, this was my first Erin Morgenstern novel, and I struggled a bit with the second half. It's very much one of those books where I just wish there was more explanation. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's definitely a book for book lovers. So if you are someone who reads a lot and loves reading, you'll definitely appreciate this novel like I did. I appreciated the writing style and the references and the imagery, but it's interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. And finally, the last book I read this month was Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. This was the third book I drew out of my TBR jar. Definitely an excellent book, but I was in such a weird headspace when I read this. A lot of it just went straight over my head. I gave this 4 stars, I think. I can definitely appreciate the writing style and the story, and it's just a very well-crafted novel, but for me, I was just in a weird place, and a lot of it went over my head. Alrighty, that's everything I read, but let's do the thing I promised you I would do. So I'm gonna draw the first book that I'm gonna be reading this month out of here. What color should I go for? I'm just gonna pick a purple. No, let's go with this one. This is always the most nervous part of filming because I don't know what's gonna be on here, and it might just make me throw a tantrum because I don't wanna read it. Oh, interesting. This was not on my radar at all. The first book I drew out of my TBR jar is The Fill-In Boyfriend by Casey West. I think I got sent this book from a friend a long time ago on BookTube. It's a Casey West, and I know Casey West is notorious for like the cutesy love story, so it'll be interesting. I don't have anything else to say. Terrible cover. Not a fan of this cover at all, but I'm gonna be reading this month. You know what? It might be fun. I need a nice cutesy romance, considering the month I had last month. Jesus, the font is so big. It's huge. All right, the next book I will be reading this month. I feel like I never do green. Let's do a green. Okay, well, I don't even know what this book is. These are all like things that were never on my radar ever. The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. This is a movie now, isn't it? I really hate the title. I'm not gonna lie. It sounds so pretentious, but it is a book about dogs, I know. And I like dogs. I have dogs. So that's 2 contemporaries we've got. Maybe a fantasy will be nice next. Okay, what colors did we do? Green and purple. Shall we go for orange? Maybe orange will be kinder to us. Oh, okay. It's not a fantasy, but I've really wanted to read this for a while. And it's perfect for Pride Month. The Music of What Happens by Bill Connersberg. This is a gay love story. That's pretty much all I know. I bought this because the cover is beautiful and it's like a pearl, you know that pearly paper texture? So it's like 2 boys that are really different and they like have a secret relationship. I don't know if music is involved at all. And it's in the 1980s, I think. This is the thing when I do the drawing out. I'm not prepared to tell you what the books are about. Yeah, I've really wanted to read this though, because I bought it like at the end of last year, and then I decided to do the TBR thing, and then I was like, oh, I guess I'll just have to wait till I draw it out. So this is perfect, and it's perfect for Pride Month. Now I have some more books that I want to read this month, which I'll go over now with you. The first 2 books I'll be reading this month are White Rage and White Fragility, as part of the Blackout Buddy Read that's happening this month between the 5th and 19th of June. This readathon was created by Shay from Books with Shay, and I'll link her video above right now if you want to go and check it out. It's kind of a great way to kickstart educating yourself on how to be a good ally to the Black community, both here on BookTube and just in general in life. Hey guys, this is Editing Angus from the future, just letting you know some information regarding the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. This book is written by a white author who has chosen to continually use a certain racial slur starting with N throughout her book. And I just thought it's really important that I share this with you before you decide whether or not to pick up this book. I'm quite annoyed I didn't know this earlier, but it's only just come to my attention tonight when I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw some people discussing it. Then the next book I'm going to be reading is The Amber Spyglass from His Dark Materials, as you kind of already know. I feel like I show this book, this bind-up, twice in every video. Yeah, as you know, it's the 3rd book in the His Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman. I really hope it corrects the course of The Subtle Knife, because I was really not impressed with The Subtle Knife and the way it kind of changed the story completely with a new main character. So hopefully some course correction happens. I'm just really keen to get the series done and just have it all together in my mind. Think about it all, you know, process it, and then make a decision whether I'll read the prequel series, which is happening. The next book I'm going to be reading this month is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I have never read any of N.K. Jemisin's work, but she has won multiple awards for her books, and I've heard a lot of good things about her in this community. This book initially drew my eye at work because it has such a beautiful cover, but we only had the paperback, so I went ahead and special ordered myself the hardcover because I am that bitch. I just love my hardcovers, and it's a curse because here in Australia there's like none and they cost so much money. So this is the first in a new series which follows a bunch of New Yorkers who have to come together to defend their city against like some kind of supernatural force. I'm not too sure, and the blurbs don't really give away much at all. I think they want you to go into this without knowing much, and I'm completely okay with that because I would love to go into books without knowing much at all, but it has a beautiful cover. And I'm really excited to jump into it. The next book I want to read this month is The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper. This book was actually sent to me for my birthday by my friend Ethan. So thank you so much, Ethan, for sending me this. I'm so excited for this one. So this book follows Cal, who wants to be like a social media journalist, when all of a sudden his dad gets like this huge job with NASA to be an astronaut, and Cal's whole family is kind of like forced to up and leave and move to Houston, and then the whole family kind of has to pose as like the perfect American family because they're just like always in the spotlight because of this huge mission his dad's doing. But Cal meets another boy who is in the exact same situation, and they get it on. Well, no, they don't. They might, I'm not sure, but pretty sure it's a love story. I mean, they're holding hands on the cover, so we know what's gonna happen. This is exactly what I need in my life right now, so I'm really excited to jump into this. The last book I wanna read this month is I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. I also got this from Ethan for my birthday, so thank you so much, Ethan. So this is the story of Ben, who comes out to their family as non-binary, and then they're forced out of home, and they are forced to move in with their estranged sister. So they're put into a very horrible situation, but it's set in a high school, and it's like a high school romance between Ben and a boy, I think. It's gonna be so cute, I can just tell. I'm really excited to read this one as well. I haven't read a YA contemporary for a little while, and this is perfect Pride Month, so I'm very excited to read it. And those are all, And those are all the books that I'm gonna be reading this month. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will be back soon with another video. Hopefully I can get through all of these this month. It's gonna be really cold here because it's winter now in Australia, so hopefully I get to do lots of reading. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!